Shalom. First off, I want to start off by saying all praises, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem Kakadash. All praises to the well-caused God, whose true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem in the name, and Yahweh Shai being the name of the only begotten Son. I also want to say double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the hopeful lake preaching word and truth of sincerity on the brother Tazabah of the Great Millstone, Arizona Camp, Lord will, with another video to edify. And I want to go on in this little Matt Walsh thing. This nigga being a demon, he got that little, what is a woman documentary. And this nigga got big for his britches. So I'm gonna play this to get some precepts, and Lord will, this all be edifying.
So let me make a few points in response to all this. And these are all points I've made before, but I'll make them again and keep making them because defending America's history and its foundation has become, I think, one of our most important cultural fights. At least it is to me. So first, it is not true that all of this land in the Americas was already occupied. Yes, there were Indian tribes living here, but even so, most of the land was not occupied. The continental United States and Canada comprise about 7 million square miles, give or take. Nobody knows how many Indians lived here prior to first contact. The tribes had no written language. They had no sophisticated method of record keeping. They certainly weren't conducting any kind of census. But most estimates would say that there were maybe 6 or 7 million people living in North America, or specifically, especially in the continental United States and Canada, on the very high end, 13 to 18 million.
With that, which that's a bullshit thing, because he's trying to sit here and say they had no record keeping. You know what? I'm gonna pull it back a little bit.
18 million, maybe. They're comprised of about 7 million square miles, give or take. Nobody knows how many Indians lived here prior to first contact. The tribes had no written language. They had no sophisticated method of record.
The tribes had no written language. They had no sophisticated method of record keeping. Well, where's the Decalogue stones? That was a sophisticated method of language, written language. That Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, the so-called Native Americans, the Latinos that were here in America before Esau touched down here, they had their own sources of record keeping. They had a written language. But just as Esau does, if it's not his, it ain't right. Right?
The record keeping, they certainly weren't conducting any kind of census. But most estimates would say that there were maybe 6 or 7 million people living in North America.
And the fact that he tries to say not all of America was inhabited, well, these demons that came from Europe didn't come to America, saw the land that was already cultivated, left that land alone and went and cultivated their own piece of land. No, they stole the already cultivated land and they built on it. They killed, raped, robbed, pillaged the already cultivated lands, so they wouldn't have to do anything, and they built on it.
Or specifically, especially in the continental United States and Canada, on the very high end, 13 to 18 million maybe. I doubt it was close to that high, but even if it was, we're talking about the population of Pennsylvania spread out over a continent. Now, you can go to Pennsylvania right now and find thousands of acres of unoccupied forest.
It's hard to keep watching this without interjecting. So Esau's mindset in this whole thing, when he talks about all this land and he tries to say the population was so small, is that, well, you're thinking about land like you think about it now, where somebody will have land and it'll be 5-6 acres, right? That's not how land ownership worked back in the day. People would have land to the point where you couldn't see. And that land was passed down from generation to generation, right? And as Esau's custom was, like it go in the scriptures, said, by thy sower shall thou live and get the fatness of the land, right? He found the portions of land that were fat, stole the resources, right? Kick those people out and force them into another land. And when those people, right, the so-called Native Americans, the so-called Latinos, came into those new lands that Esau kicked them onto, and there was resources found there. What did Esau do again? Take that land from him. So it doesn't matter whether or not he sits there and says, "Oh, all of America wasn't inhabited." Definitely everybody wasn't spread out everywhere. We're talking about a population the size of Pennsylvania. That shit does not matter. Because at the end of the day, the land that those people cultivated, which was the best parts of the land, were stolen by Edomites. Without those best parts of the land stolen, these devils would have no ability to come into the society that they have today. They had to steal.
With its population of 13 million people, you can still walk around Pennsylvania for days if you're in a forested region without seeing a single human being. So now imagine that population spread out over the entire continental US and Canada. Now you could travel for weeks and months and never see another human. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the US Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things. But they have not changed basic, fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. That's why I'm so excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the US Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the invasion of cultural Marxism in America. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/Walsh to start. It was not occupied. Almost all of it was not occupied. Almost all of it was empty of human life. Nobody was living in it. Nobody was using it.
But you took what was occupied and you stole the riches, killed the people, and that's how you started, Joe. If these devils had to sit here and come into a land, you realize how long it would take you to. How Esau does is he cuts down an entire forest, levels it, takes all the stumps out, right? Before he can even cultivate the land for farms. The amount of time it would take just simply to do that portion of work, these devils would have never been able to get ahead. So they stole. And that's what his blessing was. And like brothers are going into, they're getting ready to justify white supremacy. White supremacy. This is a mindset of white supremacy, to sit here and say, oh, well, what we did to get this land, we didn't steal from you. You didn't own all the land. We're proud of what we built here. But really, when you go through history, everything, this devil didn't build anything themselves. They took the foundation, which is the hardest portion of making a building, is to set the foundation, which the Latinos and the Native Americans built in America. And then they got Judah, the so-called Negroes, put them into slavery, brought them here to build up the rest of the house. So now Esau is coming to the point where they're saying, you know what, I'm tired of, debasing myself for these people. Fuck political correctness. We deserve what we got because, like the brother Ricard Crumb said, might is right. And that's how these devils think. Let's get into some of these precepts, man. This is Jeremiah 50. Is that the first one I want? Let me see. Yeah, Jeremiah 50. In 6, it says, my people have been a lost sheep. The shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill, meaning large government to small government, right? A mountain in the scriptures are compared to actual rulership of a government. A hill is a smaller rulership. They have forgotten their resting places. It says, all that found them have devoured them. And that's what this devil's talking about. And their adversaries said, we offend not. And that's what he's saying. And all these Edomites about to really come into that same mindset, because before what people know as modern day science right now, Esau created his own science, and it was all geared around showing that he was superior, right? You see that in that movie Django when they had the skull, right? The scene with the skull where they were at the dinner table and they found out that, Jamie Foxx's woman was actually the one they were trying to get. They weren't trying to buy a Mandingo fighter. He brought the skull out and said, these little dimples right here, so that you're made for servitude, right? That was science in Edomite's rulership, and they're getting ready to bring that whole mindset right back, right? It says, all that devour them, all that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh, the habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. And this is how these people think. Because when they look at Jake, they see you as degenerate. They see you as undeserving. They see you as lowlifes, right? Especially Judah. And our own tribes see that. Our own tribes do the same shit to one another because they learned it from these devils. All right? And the curses of the Lord are on us. But when they see you as somebody who's being inferior, somebody who's the furthest away from any godliness. So you deserve where you're at in his science. You wouldn't be there if you weren't meant to be there. That's his science. Right? This is Ezekiel 35. And I'll go to 10. It says, because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries, talking about the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel, shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. And this is what the heathen have done. And Esau, Edom, chiefly. Right? When you go up to verse 2, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Right? Mount Seir was a dwelling place of Esau. So right here in the 10th verse, it says, he said to these two countries and kingdoms, these two countries shall be mine, and we shall possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. Therefore, as I live, say Yahweh power, I will even do according to thine anger, and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred. And out of hatred, he created all these types of signings. You have what? Manifest destiny. You have what do they call it? They made laws sitting there saying that if your father wasn't a free man, you can't be a free man. Redlining. They made science saying, oh, you can't be a doctor. They made science saying that you can't have money because, you won't understand it. They made all type of laws to sit here and put Jake down through hatred. His science was made through hatred. They sat there and said the Negro is able to sustain more pain than a white man, so he doesn't need medication. He doesn't need pain meds for surgeries. So while they were sitting there making that science up out of hatred, they were cutting your women up for hysterectomies. All type of shit. Practicing on Jake. Right? It says, according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. Verse 12, it says, and thou shalt not know, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, and I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying they are laid waste, they are given us to consume. And this is what his science was all based around. That if you were as great as you say you are, we wouldn't be ruling over you. And that whole mindset, that sentiment, that science, that way of thought is coming back in a major way. So while that's coming back, and people think it's not, like I got my woman behind me right now. I know she listening to some way. She don't think that's going to come back. A lot of people don't think it, but when you look at what they're doing, all that shit's coming back. Remember, this devil, like the scripture says, is going to come down having great wrath, and he needs to justify that. He needs to galvanize his mindset to be fully persuaded to do those things. And how he's going to do it is through his science. And what you're seeing is that spirit is coming right back up. It says, This is Wisdom of Solomon 2. And I'll start at 1 and I'm jump down to 10. It says, for the ungodly said, so this is the ungodly's thoughts, right? Reasoning within themselves, but not aright. Our life is short and tedious. In the death of a man, there is no remedy. Neither was there any known to have returned from the grave. I'm gonna jump down to verse 10. So we know this is the ungodly person's thought process, and the most ungodly nation is Esau, Edom. It says, verse 10: let us oppress the poor and righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. Let our strength be the law of justice. Right? This is that where that term comes from that I quoted, right? Right is might, or might is right. Meaning if you're strong enough to do something and you do it, you're right. If somebody was strong enough to stop you, that would prove that you're wrong. That is a very evil, covetous, wicked ass mindset. It says, let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. Let us lie in wait against the righteous, because he is not for our turn. He is clean contrary to our doings. He upbraideth us with our offending of the law, meaning in their minds, they're like, you know what? Let us lie in wait for these people, right? Because he doesn't agree with us, right? He's saying he fully abstains from how we say you're supposed to live. Right? He upbraided us with our offending the law, and that's what we do. We always go into how this devil is going against the order of the Heavenly Father. And objected to our infamy, right? That ill-gotten name, the transgression of our education. Right? And we're going against all the grain that this devil tries to set down as the way to live. Isaiah 47. And 6, it says, I was wroth with my people, I polluted mine inheritance, and given them into thy hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. And this is what these devils have done. The Lord was just angry at us for a little bit. And the Lord gave us into the hand of these devils, and they didn't show us any mercy. I mean, look at how Jake is still operating to this day. Right? And then you put Jake into prison at an exorbitant rate. You trump up the charges. You set laws still against them. When it comes down to firing people, Jake is always the first to get fired. But a lot of times, Jake is the one doing the most work in the fucking whole building. Right? It says, upon the ancients hast thou heavily laid thy yoke, meaning the bondage, man. The older Jakes here, man, they got it the worst, man. They make it impossible for them to collect any type of Social Security income, any type of retirement. They charge exorbitant rates for Medicare and Medicaid. Then they take that away. They put you on waiting list for senior housing vouchers. And then when you're on the list, they know that you don't have enough to actually afford food, but they only give you $35 worth of food stamps in a month. $60 worth of food stamps for the whole month. But they broke your body down for years, and then they give you a chance to get a fucking head. This is the state of our people in this kingdom. It says, and thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart. And this is what you're seeing. Esau's coming back in that same mindset. You know what? Fuck being put down for the things we did. I'm proud of what my forefathers, my ancestors did. They built America. It wasn't immigrants. That's what he was saying in his thing. It wasn't immigrants. This whole place wasn't built by immigrants. Well, you took the places that war, pushed those native peoples into worse portions of land, and when they built those lands up, you took that as well. Right? It says, And thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, meaning he didn't consider them. Neither didst remember the latter end of it. Because in his mind, he's never going to pay for having done this to the 12 tribes of Israel. He doesn't need to pay for taking the land. He doesn't need to pay for enslaving the people, raping, robbing, pillaging. Why would he have to do that? He let you stay in his land after he stole it. Right? Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasure, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Right? Hear these words. This is what these devils act and behave like. This is their mindset. But these two things shall come upon thee in a moment and in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection. So when the Lord's ready to send out his judgment, he's going to start smiting niggas. It's going to come upon you in their perfection, meaning it's going to be a perfect destruction that's going to come upon you, devils. It says, for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thy enchantments, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me, thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it had perverted thee. And that's what it is. What you hear is this devil spewing out a bunch of facts, not even really facts, spewing out a bunch of numbers and acting as though the way land rights work today was the same way they worked back then. This is why back then you had a load of your titles. You owned that land forever. It was passed down in your family. It was passed down in your family. You didn't have to worry about anything. You had a huge swath of land so that you didn't have to see anybody for miles. You might go, a couple of days without seeing anybody. That was okay. Land rights weren't like how they are now, man. There's enough space in this entire world within irritable land for everybody to have a huge ass plot. Not huge according to this world, huge according to the ancient world. But the way these devils have done it, they've heaped up all the land for themselves that they may dwell alone. Right? Therefore shall evil come upon thee. Thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, and thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, if so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. You see, and there's more in that scripture. Let me see. I want to keep going on that or not. No, I'm good on that. This is Habakkuk 2. Because that mindset and this way that this devil is moved, you're going to have to pay for it. And we're coming down to the time where you will. Habakkuk 2 and 6, it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him? I got to start up. Verse 5, it says, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desires hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. And this is what this devil's been able. He's been able to gather unto him all nations, heaping to himself all people. He's been covetous. He's been transgressing by his philosophy. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. And that's what he's done. He's been able to sit here and take all this land, all the resources, and increase. So what is the Lord saying? Woe to him, right? Meaning destruction to him woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, still in the lands. How long? And to him that laid himself with thick clay. that thick debt. Shall not all these rise up suddenly, and shall bite thee? And awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, because thou hast spoiled many nations. All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and all that dwell therein. So the Lord's getting ready to pull out that judgment for the defiling of the people, the robbery, the rape, the murder. You devils are going to have to pay for it. Verse 9, it says, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may sit on his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. That it says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. And now this is what he's trying to do with the shame, because everybody else is bringing out what he's done in the earth. And because of what he's done in the earth, he has this shame at the end of the days. But you're not going to be able to put that off. You're going to have to deal with it, because the Lord is going to come and pay you for it. Job 20. And started 14. Yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is the gall of asp within him. He had swallowed down riches. He shall vomit them up. And just as he's gotten all this wealth, all this land, you're going to vomit them up. He shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly. He shall suck the poison of asp. The viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the brooks of honey and butter. Meaning what? He's not going to get the promise. This is all this is. When he did these things, he was trying to usurp his power to get the promise that was awarded to what? Jacob, unto Isaac, unto Jacob, unto the 12 tribes of Israel. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? It says, that which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, he shall not rejoice therein. So if he has a substance, that's what he has to restore. So everything he owns will be restored, because he stole it all. Because he had oppressed, he had taken away, because he had oppressed, he had forsaken the poor, because he had violently taken away an house which he builded not. And that's exactly what he did. You cannot deny that. When he came to this land, he didn't go to the uninhabited parts. He went to the habitated parts. They wrote laws of why they can do it. And what did they say? If they didn't know the Christian God, that it was okay for them to conquer those lands, for them to take the goods of the lands. If they couldn't speak English, they had all types of laws to justify raping, robbing, and pillaging people, because they had oppressed and had forsaken the poor, because he had violently taken away the house which he builded not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man seek for his good, for his goods. Right? Psalm 7. And it on this one. Psalm 7 and 14. Behold, he travailed with iniquity. Behold, he travailed with iniquity, and had conceived mischief, and brought forth falsehood. He made a pit and digged it. All right? You brought this shit on yourself. What the judgment's about to come, you brought it on yourself. And is fallen into the ditch which he made. Because the same things he did to us, now the world is getting ready to do to him. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. Because we're going to reward you. It says, do unto her double according to all that she had done. right? Reward her as she had even rewarded you. So you devils will have to pay for what you did to us. But Lord willing, this is every Friday. I'm going to say, call Allah, Yahweh, Shem, Shai, Shem, Crocodile, Shalom.